Welcome to my sewing room. I'm so glad you could join me today. And a little bit later on, I'm going to introduce to you my very dear friend Sheryl Capps, who is Educational Coordinator for Janome America, because she has brought some fabulous things to share with you. This little bonnet is absolutely one of the sweetest gifts you can give for a new baby, and I have a little secret to tell you. It was all done on the serger, which makes it very, very easy. Sheryl has brought the cutest little doll you've ever laid your eyes on. A little rag doll is what I used to call these. I remember the time my Aunt Chris came to see us in Chattanooga when I was 3 years old, and she brought a rag doll, or rather she sent it with my Uncle George, who was her daddy, and brought a rag doll very much like this, and I have loved her all my life. Isn't this precious? And this wonderful lace on the bottom of this dress is actually done on a sewing machine. It looks for the world like hand tatting, and that was done on the sewing machine. Now, I love the Australian blouse. Some of you, we had this in our series a couple of years ago. This beautiful pink linen blouse that Sheryl has done has this wonderful ribbon down the front. Now, sometimes you wouldn't think about putting ribbon down the front. Well, this is magnificent ribbon. And what I really love are these beautiful pintucks and the baby daisy entredot stitch that goes down the side. All of this embellishing this lovely handkerchief linen blouse, which is absolutely a very elegant and tailored blouse for a woman. Now, this beautiful sampler quilt, which is so much fun to have, just right for a baby's room or to put on the end of a bed in a child's room, a little girl's room, of course, since it's mostly pink, has a lot of decorative stitches. This is what I call a sampler. It is so much fun to practice your stitches and just enjoy all the stitches on your sewing machine, whether you have a few or a lot. You can use hand embroidery or machine embroidery, and I especially like the little square where Sheryl has done machine embroidery on ribbon, and that's a wonderful thing to do. Sweet little girls' dresses, little heirloom party dress. How much sweeter can you get? Since we have a brand new little tiny baby granddaughter, this is awfully pretty to me. The little collar has machine embroidery, and as we go down on the skirt, you will see the oval lace shaping, which with the machine embroidery in the middle, and when Joanna was a little girl, she used to call this football lace shaping. Another beautiful blouse with puffing down the middle, just beautiful tucks, very, very elegant and very tailored blouse for a lady. This is what women are looking for now, something they can wear with their business suits on any occasion. This particular collar is not done with machine embroidery. It's simply done with basic stitches on the sewing machine. Let me turn it around. So even if you just have a machine with just a few decorative stitches, you can do a wonderful cutout collar like this. This is one of my very favorites. Machine embroidery, and you can make your little pot and then take the different flowers and stitch them around. This is a true masterpiece. This should be on the walls of an art museum somewhere. It is so beautiful. I really, really am excited about sharing with you this christening dress. Oh my, it is absolutely beautiful. This is made for a baby that's for a little baby girl. So there are little pink machine embroidery around the neckline. And believe it or not, good people, this is machine smocking. And by the way, it isn't built in, it's just little decorative stitches. You didn't build in the smocking stitches, just use decorative stitches. Look at the magnificence of this christening gown. It has little decorative green vines running down the godets, puffing, lace-shaped miters, and tiny little pink flowers stitched in as it goes down the little green vines. I think this is absolutely exquisite. Another cute little outfit, which is very easy to do as far as the sewing goes, and this fun technique. This says "My Best Friend," and there's some little doggy bones there. And then the pocket is what is so interesting. There was a yarn used. Now this was machine embroidery, this little doggy, but there's a technique that Sheryl used where she used yarn, and this is a little raised, it almost looks like you could pet that little dog. You can see me having my fingers run over the little doggy. And the last blouse that Sheryl has brought to share with us is a magnificent shark's teeth blouse with the beautiful white on white machine embroidery down the front also. What wonderful things to share. And now will you come over to the technique boards with me and we'll begin to show you some wonderful tricks. Sheryl has made the most beautiful camisole using our pattern from the series. This is absolutely magnificent. She's done her tiny little straps with a beautiful technique she's going to share with you later in the show. She's gathered her little tiny lace edging, and look at these beautiful scalloped pintucks down the center and on either side. These are corded scalloped pintucks. I also think you'll love the way she's used this beautiful machine embroidery, and then there's one of the prettiest hems I think I've ever seen on this, which she's promised to share with us a little bit later. Now those beautiful scalloped corded pintucks, let's just see what we have here. First of all, you have to trace it onto a pattern. Then put your fabric over the pattern and trace your scallops all the way down, however far you want it to go on your garment. And for those of you that might not seen a double needle, this is what a double needle looks like. And then you're going to have some kind of thread. This is a silk thread. I'm going to ask her to tell you exactly what it is. It's a beautiful silky thread that she's going to use to cord these scalloped pintucks. Look how pretty this is. The pink really just shows through. The pink thread, the pink cord, they're absolutely beautiful and make a very, very elegant decorative treatment. Now let's come on over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to ask my dear friend Sheryl Capps from Genome, America, just to show us exactly how you do that elegant corded pintuck. Okay. Sheryl, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha. This is actually easy because on the bed of the machine I have put a pintuck cord guide on, which I'll show you when I finish stitching this, and it will guide my cord through for me as I stitch. The main thing that makes it so easy on the machine is that I am going to be using my knee lift. And as I sew, because we're doing a curve, I do have to keep pivoting. So the knee lift just gives me both hands free to guide and manipulate my fabric as I'm turning it to sew the cord in place. And I'm just pivoting as I go here and guiding the cord at the same time. Not really, the pintuck cord guide is guiding it, but I just kind of keep a look at it as I'm doing it, lift my fabric. Every once in a while, just the check, just a little hint to you, because sometimes if you're using a slippery type of thread, it might want to come out a little bit. So do watch that as you're sewing.
Okay. Now, what stitch length are you using there? And
I have just got it, Martha, because it is corded, I'm just using 2.2, which is where it's programmed to come up on the machine.
Okay.
If I weren't doing a corded guide, then I would change my stitch length much smaller. I'd put it down to 1.8. I do have my needle in the down position because of doing my pivoting. I don't want the needle coming out. So let me just show you. If you look at the throat plate here, you will see that this is just a little guide that the cord actually slipped right through.
you just slipped that right through the throat plate. You know what,
Right.
Sheryl? I bet if someone doesn't have that feature, they can just simply lift up and guide a little bit.
And they can use the straw, which was another method that's always been used in our heirloom sewing.
Now, what kind of cord did you use here? Is this a silk cord? It looked so pretty over there on the board.
This is really just a decorative cording that you can use in your serges for doing flat locking and that type of thing. We could also have been using a pearl cotton.
Okay.
We could be using embroidery floss, 6 strands at a time, because that comes in so many shades.
Well, I'll tell you what, the corded pintucks, and especially that scallop one, that is very beautiful. Sheryl, thank you so much. And now Sheryl has a beautiful lingerie technique to share with you. This is the most beautiful camisole I just shared with you. Now, the technique which Sheryl is going to explain now. Look at this strap. This is one of the most beautiful finishes I have ever seen. Her little finish just on the batiste. And then I'm going to hold this up for you so you can see the same finish is done on the bottom. Absolutely beautiful. Talk about a hem stitch. That's something just totally beautiful with that scallop. And Sheryl, I'd like for you to share with us exactly how you did that.
Martha, it is incredibly easy. It is stitch 56 on the sewing machine. The only thing I've done is I've adjusted the stitch length to 0.35. Everything else stays the same. I'm using the F foot, and on the F foot, I just want to explain a little bit. We do have a little arrow on that foot. Some people prefer to put a little dot black mark on there with a permanent marking pen. This is just a little hint to you because you can really see where you're placing your fabric with that little dot.
That's a great idea on any foot, isn't it?
On any foot that you're using as a guide, yes. And all I am going to do is let the edge, I've pressed under, I want to show you, I've pressed under the fabric once, and then turned it up again. A scant 1/4 inch or maybe even an 1/8 of an inch in is just fine. And you want to have it finished off though, because you don't want a raw edge under here. It's just a matter then, Martha, of guiding the fabric right along the edge, the right edge of the little arrow on that foot. And when you do that, as you can see, the needle is what I like to refer to. When it goes to the right, it's in the air.
Kind of goes off.
Goes off the fabric, and then it swings back on the fabric. And as you can see, this is exactly the look that's on the bottom of the camisole and the straps.
I bet you could use almost any scallopy kind of stitch, couldn't you?
You can. Some of them, I just prefer the look of them better because we have about 6 different scallop stitches on the machine. They're all grouped together, stitches 51 through 57.
Yeah. I just love the look of that, and the fact that you've turned it back twice, of course, means it's completely finished, and you can just do all kinds of. Cheryl, thank you so much. Now, I would like permission to show all of our viewers another piece of lingerie that Cheryl has done for you. One of the most magnificent robes I have ever seen in my life. She's used some more techniques on this robe, this beautiful blue Swiss batiste robe. She has done the scalloped edging. She's used wing needle entredot to attach the gathered lace. And in each scallop, she has put a beautiful tone-on-tone, just a very delicate blue embroidery design, machine scallop, blue embroidery design, using the wing needle pin stitch to hold it down. This sleeve, which is such a beautiful sleeve, she has chosen a really pretty bird. Again, done everything blue on blue. That almost looks so Williamsburg-y to me. Very, very classic and early American. Then coming down the skirt, I would like to pick this skirt up for you and share with you this beautiful scalloped edge on the bottom, the big scallop that goes all the way around the corner, and once again that beautiful Williamsburg bird. And Cheryl, I also love the way you've put some little stars, just kind of scattered them around, and then you've done the scallops all the way around the bottom of this magnificent robe. What a masterpiece. And next, I have a quilt square to share with you. The most beautiful techniques in heirloom sewing is called Seminole patchwork. Here is the Seminole patchwork square of this quilt. See how the beautiful different colored squares go up and down and cross each other. Now it looks hard, but it isn't. I'm going to share with you how easy it is to do this. Let me pull my board up here. And we're going to just unravel those mysteries right now. First of all, take several different colors of fabric. Then you butt those pieces of fabric together and simply zigzag your lace down on each side. Zigzag and zigzag. Now, as you can see, these fabrics are still butted together. This is called extra stable lace finish. So I'm going to fold one side of the fabric back, fold one side of the fabric back, stitch it down on either side, and then trim it, and then I have peekaboo lace. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is to cut these strips, just make little slices out of those strips and then turn them in this direction. Then I'm going to put a lace piece of insertion on one side, on the next side, on the next side, and then I'm going to overlap it and sew it together. And did you notice how I came down one little stair step at a time? Green fabric, beige fabric, green fabric, beige fabric, and I came down one step on this. Here is what it looks like when it's sewn together. Starting at the top, I just moved down one level. Now, I'm going to unpin this and just show you how you turn it. I'm going to turn it this way until all the blue squares run up and down. Now, then I'm going to draw a rectangle. I'll draw a line across here, down here, down here, and down here. Now you see they're all turned sideways rather than up and down. Then I put another piece of lace insertion on this side, another piece of lace insertion on this side. I sew it on the inside of both sides, inside, inside. Goodness me, I got that stuck. In other words, this piece is already just thrown out on one side. Now I have these little saw teeth over here. I've got to just simply go in there and cut them away. I have cut them away on this side, and if you look over here, you will see how they looked before I cut them away. Then when I cut them away, they will look like the other side, and then I'm now ready to insert my piece of Seminole patchwork into the quilt square. Now that is a very difficult looking technique, and as you can see, it is a really simple technique. No problem at all if you just turn it sideways, do your rectangle, put your lace on each side, trim it away, and then you have that beautiful piece of Seminole patchwork to put in your quilt square. And next, I would like to share some hand embroidery with you. I am so happy to have as my guest today Kathy Neal. Kathy is one of the world's authorities on embroidery, and she has designed for many years for So Beautiful and also taught at our school in Huntsville. Kathy, thank you for being here today and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha. I have a wonderful stitch that I think our viewers will really like because it's called the Fishbone stitch. And one of the things that I just love to do the most is to do floral embroidery motifs. And of course, with floral embroidery motifs, you always have to decide, how am I going to do the leaves? And this is a wonderful stitch for embroidered leaves. And so today I'd like to show you a fishbone leaf. Sometimes with a stitch, before you ever thread the needle, you have to do some preparation to assure a stitch with which you're happy. So today I would like to talk to you a little bit about transferring your design. To successfully transfer the design onto our fabric, the first thing you want to do is heavily spray starch your material, unless it's silk or another fabric that perhaps doesn't take this moisture too well. But after you spray starch and press dry, then I just use a sharp number 2 pencil, and I keep a little portable pencil sharpener with me. Use a sharp number 2 pencil, and I do my design. Now, on the fishbone leaf, it's very important. You'll notice how I've done the outline of the leaf and also the central vein of the leaf. Now, it's important to draw it just like that because your stitches follow that outline. With this stitch, to begin this stitch, and by the way, Martha, today I'm using 2 strands of cotton stranded floss. The reason I'm doing that is because it will be easier for our cameras to pick up. Usually I only use 1 strand of whatever thread I'm using, a floche or a stranded cotton, a cotton broder. Either one of those would be just delightful for this stitch. But today I am using 2 strands because I think it'll show up. And what we want to do is start out right on about halfway down the leaf vein and take just a little sewing stitch. This starts the stitch, and we want to do just a little sewing stitch right at the beginning, and this is how we're beginning. Right where the thread goes under the fabric, we want to bring the point of the needle back. This is called a split stitch, and the reason we want to do the split stitch is it anchors the thread. And our needle comes out just beyond a fabric thread or 2 beyond the traced design outline. And I'm going to pull that through, being careful not to catch the little tail ends of my thread. I'm pulling that through. Now, notice how that secures my thread completely. That always fascinates our students. And I'm going to clip that little tail of thread off. And then we begin our fishbone stitch. We go in, this is very simple. We go in about where we did that split stitch, just behind there. The needle goes in on the vein line, and the point comes out on the edge of the drawn design line, just like that. Now, that's our first stitch. Now, listen very carefully. We only want to move back one fabric fiber along the vein line. One fabric fiber, and then bring the needle out, and the needle comes out on alternating sides. And we come back on the vein line, one fabric thread, and out on the design line, alternating sides. Okay, just like that. And as you see, this leaf is developing so nicely here. And I'm using a variegated thread. And this variegated thread gives a very natural shading to the leaf, just like we find in nature in our wonderful plants. Here I have a couple already finished in just one strand of floss, and you see how delicate and wonderful they are. Martha, one of my favorite uses for this is on both children and baby clothing and items. Here we have on this motif these wonderful bullion rosebuds, and these really do look like the natural leaves of a rose bush. Because they're so delicate and wonderful, they're also good on baby items, such as this little baby bib. I've used the same type of motif, and here you see a solid thread, and you can see the wonderful shading you get with a variegated thread. A delightful leaf that doesn't take a long time to do, Martha.
Well, now I think they're very beautiful. As a matter of fact, Kathy, these are two of the most beautiful examples of embroidery, period. And that looks reasonably easy, the fishbone leaf.
The students love them.
All right. Thank you so much, Kathy, for being here. And now, won't you join me in my attic? This robe, or peignoir, is one of the most beautiful pieces that I have ever had in my whole collection. The collar is so fabulous with this beautiful wide laces, and I'm going to lift this collar up here just to show you these wonderful sets of pintucks that go down. And by the way, this is an ecru silk, might have even been a light gold silk with the white laces. See how beautifully the front comes down, and then I'm going to show you the back before we show you the skirt. It's just out of this world. Every inch of it is beautiful. Now I'm going to turn this around to the back and let you just look at the back, and then I'll show you the skirt too. The collar is almost a sailor collar in the back. Isn't that beautiful? Let me lift it up and show you that the details on the sewing went the whole length of the dress, from the top all the way down to the very bottom, the diagonal pieces of lace, and I think you can probably see this better if I pick it up. Look at the laces on that skirt, how they come up and down, the beautiful miters and the piece, the tucks. On the first set of tucks, there are 2 tucks. On the next set, there are 3 tucks, and then a beautiful ruffle with all of the silk. I don't think I've ever seen details any more beautiful. And you know, also up on the top of this ruffle, there are some released tucks, which are absolutely magnificent also. The fabric held up pretty well. This is definitely a late Victorian or Edwardian piece, and I think the fabric held up really well considering the fact it's silk, because silk usually does not hold up quite as well as the cotton fabrics do. Thank you for joining me in my sewing room today. I've just loved having you visit with me here. I would really like to invite you also to come back next time.